broadcast on YouTube and Facebook, and send a notice out. Notice. All right, and make sure we are streaming. Yes, we are live and alive. Okay, let's see. Go back here. Okay. Ready to go. Let me see what song we're going to sing. Okay, we'll do Evara Karuna Koro, Vaishnava Gosai. Get the guitar. Uh-oh. Wait a second. All right, 1 second. Oh, there we go. All righty. Ebaro Karuna Koro, Vaishnava Gosai. Ebaro Karuna Koro, Vaishnava Gosai. Patita Pavana Doma Keona. Patita Pavana Doma Vinay Koe Nai. Hey Monada Yalla Prabhu Kivako Dupai. Mona Koyala Bravo Bivako Tapai Gangara Parasavile Pasyate Bhavan Gangara Parasavile Pasyate Bhavan Dashare Pavitra Koro Itama Dashare Pavitra Koro Itama Haristan Nayapurale Tare Arena Haristan Nayapurale Tare Arena Thomas Danayapurale Nagi Barichan Thomas Danayapurale Nagi Barichan Tomara Vidoya Sana Govina Vishram Tomara Vidoya Sana Govina Vishram Govina Govina Mora Vaishnava Puran Govina Govina Mora Vaishnava Puran Pati Janme Korea Sharane Ture Pati Janme Korea Sharana Ture Narottama Koro Doya Narottama Koro Doya Naramuli Koro Vaishnava Goswami Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhakacharya Oath of Tanasatashi Shibad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrind Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gijai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopikavanath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Kijai Vrindavanam Kijai Maturanam Kijai Jagannath Swami Kijai Muramai Kijai Shimati Lalasi Devi Kijai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Kijai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. Okay, we're having a little bit of problems with the computer right now. Hold on a second. Let me see what we can do. Hold on a second. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Budale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarani. Give me 1 second. Okay. I think I'll be able to take care of it. Let's just try and close some windows. Should be all right now. Give me one. Okay. Let's go back. Okay, here we are again. Uh-oh. Give me 1 second. I think. Hold on. Definitely some trouble here. Audio settings. Okay, so we're gonna have to. Okay, so somehow or others we're still working. What I'm gonna do is sign out and sign in real quickly, just to get this thing going. Just give me a second. We're back. Sorry. Basically, what happened is I had too many windows open. So, let me read the translation of this Vaishnava poem that we just sung. Oh, Vaishnava Goswami, please be merciful to me now. There's no one except you can purify the fallen souls. Where does anyone find such a merciful personality, but whose mere audience all sins go far away? One becomes purified after bathing in the waters of the sacred Ganges many times. But just the sight of you purifies the fallen souls. This is your great power. The holy name delivers one who is offended, Lord Hari, but if one offends you, there's no means of deliverance. Your heart is always the resting place of Lord Govinda. And Lord Govinda says, the Vaishnavas are in my heart. I desire the dust of your holy feet in every birth I may take. Please consider Narottama yours and be kind upon him. So we're going to go on to read the Krishna book. Om Gana Timirandasha Gananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we're reading from the Krishna book by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. I have to just find it here. And reading from chapter 70, which is entitled Lord Krishna's Daily Activities. So let's share the screen. So, here we go. Sorry for the delay. So, Lord Krishna's daily activities. Let me just make the text a little bit bigger so everyone can read along with me. And so, sorry for this delay, but this is because I had too many things open on the computer. So, the computer has a heart attack when I have too many things open on it. Let's see. One more thing we have to do. Zoom in. 200. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're reading from chapter 70. Lord Krishna's daily activities. From the Vedic mantras, we learn that the Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, has nothing to do. Nakat-tasya karyam karanam cha vijate. But if the Supreme Lord has nothing to do, how can we speak of the activities of the Supreme Lord? From the previous chapter, it is clear that no one can act the way Lord Krishna does. We should clearly note this fact. The activity of the Lord should be followed, but they should or cannot be imitated. For example, Krishna's ideal life as a householder can be followed, but if one wants to imitate Krishna by expanding into many forms, that is not possible. We should always remember, therefore, that Lord Krishna, although playing the part of a human being, simultaneously maintains the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We can follow Lord Krishna's dealings with his wives as an ordinary human being, but his dealings with more than 16,000 wives at one time cannot be imitated. The conclusion is that to become ideal householders, we should follow in the footsteps of Lord Krishna as he displayed his daily activities, but we cannot imitate him at any stage of our life. Lord Krishna used to lie down with the 16,000 wives, but he would also rise from bed very early in the morning, 3 hours before sunrise. By nature's arrangement, the crowing of the cocks warns of the Brahma tower. Now, the cocks are mentioned here, they are the peacocks, not chickens, like some of you may have. Hopefully none of you have chickens. There is no need of alarm clocks. As soon as the cocks crow early in the morning, it is to be understood that it is time to rise from bed. Hearing that sound, Krishna would get up from bed, but his rising early was not very much liking to his wives. The wives of Krishna were so much attached to him that they would lie in bed embracing him, and as soon as the cocks crowed, Krishna's wives would be very sorry and would immediately condemn the crowing. I remember in Vrindavan in the early days, when they used to have peacocks in Vrindavan, we'd be woken up every morning by the sound of the peacocks crowing. And it was really early we were woken up, sometimes as early as, just the sound, sometimes as early as 3 o'clock in the morning we'd be woken up by the peacocks. It was nice, actually. Oh, let's see. Give me a second here. Okay. In the garden, within the compound of each palace, there are parijata flowers. The parijata is not an artificial flower. We remember that Krishna brought the parijata trees from heaven and planted them in all his palaces. Early in the morning, a mild breeze would carry the aroma of the parijata flower, and Krishna would smell it just after rising from bed. Due to this aroma, the honeybees would begin their humming vibration, and the birds would also begin their sweet chirping sounds. Altogether, it would sound like the singing of professional chanters engaged in offering prayers to Krishna. Although Srimati Rukmini Devi, the first queen of Krishna, knew that Brahma Muhurta is the most auspicious time in the entire day, she would feel disgusted at the appearance of Brahma Muhurta because she was not very happy to have Krishna leave her side in bed. Despite Srimati Rukmini Devi's disgust, Lord Krishna would immediately get up from bed exactly on the appearance of the Brahma Muhurta, and ideal householders should learn from the behavior of Lord Krishna how to rise early in the morning, however comfortably he may be lying in bed embraced by his wife. After rising from bed, Krishna would wash his mouth, hands, and feet, and would immediately sit down and meditate on himself. This does not mean, however, that we should also sit down and meditate on ourselves. We have to meditate upon Krishna, Radha Krishna. That is real meditation. Krishna is Krishna himself. Therefore, he was teaching us that Brahma Muhurta should be utilized for meditation on Radha Krishna. By such meditation, Krishna would feel very much satisfied, and similarly, we will also feel transcendently pleased and satisfied if we utilize the Brahma Muhurta period to meditate on Radha and Krishna. And if we think of how Srimati Rukmini Devi and Krishna acted as ideal householders to teach the whole human society to rise early in the morning and immediately engage in Krishna consciousness. There's no difference between meditating on the eternal forms of Radha Krishna and chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna. As for Krishna's meditation, he had no alternative but to meditate on himself. The object of meditation is Brahman, Paramatma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Krishna himself is all three. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. The localized Paramatma is his plenary expansion, and the all-pervading Brahman effulgence is the personal rays of his transcendental body. Therefore, Krishna is always one, and for him there is no differentiation. That is the difference between an ordinary living being and Krishna. For an ordinary living being, there are many distinctions. An ordinary living being is different from his body, and he is different from other species of living entities. A human being is different from other human beings and different from the animals. Even in his own body, there are different bodily limbs. We have our hands and legs, but our hands are different from the legs. The hand cannot act like the leg, nor can the leg act like the hand. The ears can hear, but the eyes cannot, and the eyes can see, but the ears cannot. All these differences are technically called svajatiya, vijatiya. The bodily limitation whereby one part of the body cannot act as another part is totally absent from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's no difference between his body and himself, no duality. He is completely spiritual, and therefore there's no difference between his body and his soul. Similarly, he is not different from his millions of incarnations and planetary expansions. Baladev is the first expansion of Krishna, and from Baladev expand Sankarshan, Vasudev, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Not necessarily in that order. It's Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. From Sankarshan, there's an expansion of Narayan, and from Narayan, there's a second quadruple expansion of Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Similarly, there are innumerable other expansions of Krishna, but all of them are one. Krishna has many incarnations, such as Lord Nrsimha, Lord Boar, Lord Fish, and Lord Tortoise. But there's no difference between Krishna's original two-handed form, like that of a human being, and these incarnations of gigantic animal forms. Nor is there any difference between the action of one part of his body and that of another. His hands can act as his legs, his eyes can act as his ears, or his nose can act as another part of the body. Krishna's smelling and eating and hearing are all the same. We, limited living entities, have to use a particular part of the body for a particular purpose, but there's no such distinction for Krishna. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Angadi Asha Sakalendriya Vrittimante. Sakalendriya Vrittimante. Krishna can perform the activities of one limb with any other limb. So by analytical study of Krishna and his person, it is concluded that he is the complete whole. When he meditates, therefore, he meditates on himself. Self-meditation by ordinary men designated in Sanskrit as Soham is simply imitation. Krishna may meditate on himself because he is the complete whole, but we cannot imitate him and meditate on ourselves. Our body is a designation superimposed upon ourself, the soul. Krishna's body is not a designation. Krishna's body is also Krishna. There's no existence of anything foreign in Krishna. Whatever there is in Krishna is also Krishna. He is therefore the supreme, indestructible, complete existence, or the supreme truth. Krishna's existence is not relative existence. Everything else but Krishna is a relative truth. But Krishna is the supreme, absolute truth. Krishna does not depend on anything but himself for his existence. Our existence, however, is relative. For example, only when there is the light of the sun, the moon, or electricity are we able to see. Our seeing, therefore, is relative, and the light of the sun and moon and electricity is also relative. But they are called illuminating only because we see them as such. But dependence and relativity do not exist in Krishna. His activities are not dependent on anyone else's appreciation, nor does he depend on anyone else's help. He is beyond the existence of limited time and space, and because he is transcendental to time and space, he cannot be covered by the illusion of Maya, whose activities are limited. In the Vedic literature, we find that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has multipotencies, since all such potencies are emanations from him. There is no difference between him and his potencies. Certain philosophers say, however, that when Krishna comes, he accepts a material body. But even if it is accepted, then when he comes to the material world, he accepts a material body. It should be concluded also that because the material energy is not different from him, this body does not act materially. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, therefore, that he appears by his own internal potency, Atma Maya. So, of course, Krishna doesn't take a material body. Krishna comes in his same transcendental form. Ajopi samayatma bhutaram ishropi samprapatim swamadistaya sambhavami atmamaya. And also Krishna says in the Gita, avajananti ma mudha, that those who think he has a material body are asses. So Krishna is called the Supreme Brahman because he is the cause of creation, the cause of maintenance, and the cause of dissolution. Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva are different expansions of these material qualities. All these material qualities can act upon the conditioned souls, but there's no such action and reaction upon Krishna, because these qualities are simultaneously one with and different from him. Krishna himself is simply Satchidananda Vigraha, Brahma-samhita 5.1, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, and because of his inconceivable greatness, he is called the Supreme Brahman. His meditation on Brahman or Paramatma or Bhagavan is on himself only and not on anything else beyond himself. This meditation cannot be imitated by the ordinary living entity. So, that's Krishna's situation in the morning. After his meditation, the Lord would regularly bathe early in the morning with clear, sanctified water. Then he would change into fresh clothing, cover himself with a wrapper, that means something on the top, and engage in his daily religious functions. Out of his many religious duties, the first was to offer oblations into the sacrificial fire and silently chant the Gayatri Mantra. Lord Krishna, as the ideal householder, executed all the religious functions of a householder without deviation. When the sunrise became visible, the Lord would offer specific prayers to the sun god. The sun god and other demigods mentioned in the Vedic scriptures are described as different limbs of the body of Lord Krishna, and it is the duty of the householder to offer respects to the demigods and great sages, as well as the forefathers. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has no specific duty to perform in this world, and yet he acts just like an ordinary man living an ideal life within this material world. In accordance with Vedic ritualistic principles, the Lord would offer his respects to the demigods, The regulative principle by which the demigods and forefathers are worshipped is called tarpana, which means pleasing. One's forefathers may have to take a body on another planet, but by performance of this tarpana system, they become very happy wherever they may be. It is the duty of the householder to make his family members happy. And by following this tarpana system, he can make his forefathers happy also. As the perfect exemplary householder, Lord Krishna followed this tarpana system and offered respectful obeisances to the elderly, superior members of his family. So, we don't do all these things because we chant Hare Krishna. And the chanting of Hare Krishna is more valuable than repeated or unlimited numbers of other types of sacrifices. His next duty was to give cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Every day Krishna used to give many groups of 13,084 cows. That's a lot. Each of these cows was decorated with a silken cover and pearl necklace. Their horns were covered with gold plating, and their hooves were silver plated. And of course, Krishna's God, he could do all that. All of them were full of milk due to having their firstborn calves with them, and they were very tame and peaceful. And the cows were given in charity to the Brahmanas also were given nice silken garments, and each was given a deerskin and sufficient quantity of sesame seeds. The Lord is generally known as Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, which means that his first duty is to see to the welfare of the cows and the Brahmanas. Thus he used to give cows in charity to the Brahmanas with opulent decorations and paraphernalia. Then, wishing for the welfare of all living entities, he would touch auspicious articles such as milk, honey, ghee, clarified butter, gold, jewels, and fire. Although the Lord is by nature very beautiful due to the perfect figure of his transcendental body, he would dress himself in yellow garments and put on his necklace of Kaustuba jewels. He would wear flower garlands, smear his body with the pulp of sandalwood, and decorate himself with similar cosmetics and ornaments. It is said that the ornaments themselves became beautiful upon being placed on the transcendental body of the Lord. After decorating himself in this way, the Lord would then look at marble statues of the cow and calf and visit temples of God or demigods like Lord Shiva. There were many Brahmanas who would come daily to see the Supreme Lord before taking their breakfast. They were anxious to see him, and he welcomed them. His next duty was to please all kinds of men belonging to the different castes, both in the city and within the palace compound. He made them happy by fulfilling their different desires. And when the Lord saw them happy, he also became very much pleased. The flower garlands, betel nuts, sandalwood pulp, and other fragrant cosmetic articles offered to the Lord would be distributed by him first to the Brahmanas and elderly members of the family, then to the queens, then to the ministers, and if there were still some balance, he would engage it for his own personal use. By the time the Lord finished all these daily duties and activities, his charioteer Daruka would come with his wonderful chariot to stand before the Lord with folded hands, intimating that the chariot was ready, and the Lord would come out of the palace to travel. Then the Lord, accompanied by Uddhava and Satyaki, would ride on the chariot just as the sun god rides on his chariot in the morning, appearing with his blazing rays on the surface of the world. When the Lord was about to leave his palaces, all the queens would look at him with feminine gestures. The Lord would respond to their greetings with smiles, attracting their hearts so much that they would feel intense separation from him. Of course, this is going on in each and every one of his palaces. Then the Lord would go to the assembly house known as Sudharma. It may be remembered that the Sudharma assembly house was taken away from the heavenly planets and established in the city of Dwarka. The specific significance of the assembly house was that anyone who entered it would be freed from the 6 kinds of material pangs, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. I definitely need to go there. These are the waves of material existence, and as long as one remained in that Sudharma assembly house, he would not be affected by these 6 material waves. The Lord would say goodbye in all the 16,000 palaces, and again he would become one. In other words, all the different expansions of the Lord would just become one. What can I say? I could use the word merge, but I just say, become one, manifested as one, because they were one. Anyway, this is all inconceivable, and because God is God, he's inconceivable. If he was conceivable, he wouldn't be God. And entered the Siddharma assembly house in procession with other members of the Yadu dynasty. After entering the assembly house, he used to sit on the exalted royal throne and would be seen to emanate glaring rays of transcendental effulgence. In the midst of all the great heroes of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna resembled the full moon in the sky surrounded by multi-luminaries. In the assembly house, there were professional jokers, dancers, musicians, and ballet girls. And as soon as the Lord sat on his throne, they would begin their respective functions to please the Lord and put him in a happy mood. First of all, the jokers would talk in such a way that the Lord and his associates would enjoy their humor, which would refresh the morning mood. The dramatic actors would then play their parts, and the dancing ballet girls would separately display their artistic movements. By ballet, of course, we probably mean Bharatanatyam. All of these functions would be accompanied by the beating of mridanga drums and the sounds of the veena, flutes, and bells, followed by the sound of the moraja, another type of drum. To these musical vibrations, the auspicious sound of the conch shell would be added. The professional singers are called sutas and mogadas, and they would sing, and others would perform their dancing art. In this way, as devotees, they would offer respectful prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes the learned Brahmanas present in that assembly would chant Vedic hymns and explain them to the audience to the best of their knowledge, and sometimes some of them would recite old historical accounts of the activities of prominent kings. The Lord, accompanied by his associates, would be very much pleased to hear them. Once upon a time, a person arrived at the gateway of the assembly house who was unknown to all the members of the assembly, and with permission of Lord Krishna, he was admitted into the assembly by the doorkeeper. The doorkeeper was ordered to present him before the Lord, and the man appeared and offered his respectful obeisances unto the Lord with folded hands. It had happened that when King Jarasandha conquered all the other kingdoms, many kings did not bow their heads before Jarasandha, and consequently all of them, numbering 20,000, were arrested and made as prisoners. The man brought before Lord Krishna by the doorkeeper was a messenger from all these imprisoned kings. Being duly presented before the Lord, the man began to relay a message from the kings as follows. Dear Lord, you are the eternal form of transcendental bliss and knowledge. As such, you are beyond the reach of the mental speculation or vocal description of any materialistic man within this world. A slight portion of your glories can be known by persons fully surrendered unto your lotus feet, and by your grace only such persons become freed from all material anxieties. Dear Lord, we are not among those surrendered souls. We are still within the duality and illusion of this material existence. We therefore take shelter at your lotus feet, for we are afraid of the cycle of birth and death. Dear Lord, we think that there are many living entities like us who are eternally entangled in fruit of activities and their reactions. They are never inclined to follow your instructions by performing devotional service, although it is pleasing to the heart and most auspicious for one's existence. On the contrary, they are against the path of Krishna conscious life, and they are wandering within the three worlds, impelled by the illusory energy of material existence. Dear Lord, who can estimate your mercy and your powerful activities? You are present always as the insurmountable force of eternal time, baffling the indefatigable desires of the materialists, who are thus repeatedly confused and frustrated. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you in your form of eternal time. Dear Lord, you are the proprietor of all the worlds, and you have incarnated yourself with your plenary expansion, Lord Balaram. It is said that your appearance in this incarnation is for the purpose of protecting the faithful and destroying the miscreants. Under the circumstances, how is it possible that miscreants like Jarasandha can put us into such deplorable conditions of life against your authority? We are puzzled at the situation and cannot understand how it is possible. It may be that Jarasandha has been deputed to give us such trouble because of our past misdeeds, but we have heard from revealed scriptures that anyone who surrenders unto your lotus feet is immediately immune to the reactions of sinful life. We therefore offer ourselves wholeheartedly unto your shelter, and we hope that your Lordship will now give us full protection. We have now come to our real conclusion of our lives. Our kingly positions were nothing but the reward of our past pious activities, just as our suffering imprisonment by Jarasandha is the result of our past impious activities. We realize now that the reactions of both pious and impious activities are temporary, and that we can never be happy in this conditioned life. The material body is awarded to us by the modes of material nature, and on account of this we are full of anxieties. The material condition of life simply involves bearing the burden of this dead body. As a result of fruitive activities, we have thus been subjected to being beasts of burden for these bodies and being forced by conditioned life. We have given up the pleasing life of Krishna consciousness. Now we realize that we are the most foolish persons. We have been entangled in a network of material reactions due to our ignorance. We have therefore come to the shelter of your lotus feet, which can immediately eradicate all the results of fruitive action, and thus free us from the contamination of material pains and pleasures. So in other words, they glorified Krishna first, and now they're just saying, Krishna, help. Dear Lord, that's the system. You glorify a great personality first, and then you ask for help. Dear Lord, because we are now surrendered souls at your lotus feet, you can give us relief from the entrapment of fruitive action made possible by Jarasandha. Dear Lord, it is known to you that Jarasandha possesses the power of 10,000 elephants, and with his power he has imprisoned us just as the lion hypnotizes a flock of sheep. Dear Lord, you have already fought with Jarasandha 18 times consecutively, out of which you have defeated him 17 times by surpassing his extraordinarily powerful position. But in your 18th fight, you exhibited your human behavior, and thus it appeared that you were defeated. In other words, when Jarasandha attacked Mathura, Krishna and Balaram ran away from Mathura because previously they had transported all the residents of Mathura to Dwarka. So this is why Lord Krishna is called Ranchorji. Dear Lord, we know very well that Jarasandha cannot defeat you at any time, for your power, strength, resources, and authority are all unlimited. No one can equal you or surpass you. Your apparent defeat by Jarasandha in the 18th engagement was nothing but an exhibition of human behavior. Unfortunately, foolish Jarasandha could not understand your tricks, and he has since then become puffed up over his material power and prestige. Specifically, he has arrested and imprisoned us, knowing fully that as your devotees we are subordinate to your sovereignty. The messenger concluded, now I've explained the awful position of the kings, and your lordship can consider and do whatever you like. As the messenger and representative of all those imprisoned kings, I have submitted my words before your lordship and presented their prayers to you. All the kings are very anxious to see you, so they can personally surrender at your lotus feet. My dear Lord, be merciful upon them and act for their good fortune. At the very moment the messenger of the imprisoned kings was presenting their appeal before the Lord, the great sage Narada arrived. Because he was a great saint, his hair was dazzling like gold. He had blonde hair. And when he entered the assembly house, it appeared that the sun god was personally present in the midst of the assembly. Lord Krishna is the worshipable master of even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Yet as soon as he saw that the sage Narada had arrived, he immediately stood up with his ministers and secretaries to receive the great sage and offer his respectful obeisances by bowing his head. The great sage Narada took a comfortable seat, and Lord Krishna worshipped him with all paraphernalia, as required for the regular reception of a saintly person. While trying to satisfy Naradaji, Lord Krishna spoke the following words in a sweet and natural voice. My dear great sage among the demigods, I think that now everything is well within the three worlds. You are perfectly eligible to travel everywhere in space in the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems of this universe. Fortunately, when we meet you, we can very easily take information from your holiness of all the news of the three worlds, for within this cosmic manifestation of the Supreme Lord, there's nothing concealed from your knowledge. You know everything, and so I wish to question you. Are the Pandavas doing well, and what is the present plan of King Yudhisthira? Will you kindly let me know what you want to do at present? What they want to do at present. The great sage Narada spoke as follows: My dear Lord, you have spoken about the cosmic manifestation created by the Supreme Lord, but I know that you are the all-pervading creator. Your energies are so extensive and inconceivable that even powerful personalities like Brahma, the Lord of this particular universe, cannot measure your inconceivable power. My dear Lord, you are present as the super soul in everyone's heart by your inconceivable potency, exactly like the fire, which is present in everyone, but which no one can see directly. In conditioned life, all living entities are within the jurisdiction of three modes of material nature. As such, they are unable to see your presence everywhere with their material eyes. By your grace, however, I have seen many times the action of your inconceivable potency, and therefore when you ask me for the news of the Pandavas, which is not at all unknown to you, I am not surprised at your inquiry. My dear Lord, by your inconceivable potencies, you create this cosmic manifestation, maintain it, and again dissolve it. Only by dint of your inconceivable potency does the material world, although a shadow representation of the spiritual world, appear to be factual. No one can understand what you plan to do in the future. Your transcendental position is always inconceivable to everyone. As far as I am concerned, I can simply offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. In the bodily concept of existence, everyone is driven by material desires, and thus everyone develops new material bodies one after another in the cycle of birth and death. Being absorbed in such concept of existence, one does not know how to get out of this engagement of the material body. By your causeless mercy, my Lord, you descend to exhibit your various transcendental pastimes, which are illuminating and full of glory. Therefore, I have no alternative but to offer my respectful obeisances unto you. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Param Brahman, and your pastimes are like an ordinary human, are another tactical resource, exactly like a play on the stage in which the actor plays different parts from his own identity. Because the Pandavas are your cousins, you have inquired about them in the role of their well-wisher, and therefore I shall let you know about their intentions. Now please hear from me. First, I may inform you that King Yudhisthira has all material opulences, which are possible to achieve in the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka. He has no material opulence for which to aspire, yet he wants to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice only to get your association and please you. King Yudhisthira is so opulent that he has attained all the opulences of Brahmaloka even on this earthly planet. He is fully satisfied and he does not need anything more. He is full in everything, but now he wants to worship you to achieve your causeless mercy, and I beg to request you to fulfill his desires. My dear Lord, in these great sacrificial performances by King Yudhisthira, there will be an assembly of all the demigods and all the famous kings of the world. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, one who engages himself in your devotional service by the prescribed methods of hearing, chanting, and remembering, certainly becomes purified from the contamination of the modes of material nature, and what to speak of those who have the opportunity to see you and touch you directly. My dear Lord, you are the symbol of everything auspicious. Your transcendental name and fame was spread all over the universe, including the higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. The transcendental water which washes your lotus feet is known in the higher planetary systems as Mandakini, in the lower planetary system as Bhagavati, and in this earthly planetary system as the Ganges. This sacred transcendental water flows throughout the entire universe, purifying wherever it flows. Just before the great sage Narada arrived in the Siddharma assembly house of Dwarka, Lord Krishna and his ministers and secretaries had been considering how to attack the kingdom of Jarasandha. Because they were seriously considering this subject, Narada's proposal that Lord Krishna go to Hastinapur for Maharaj Yudhisthira's great Rajasuya sacrifice did not much appeal to them. Lord Krishna could understand the intentions of his associates because he is the ruler of even Lord Brahma. Therefore, in order to pacify them, he smilingly said to Uddhava, My dear Uddhava, you are always my well-wishing, confidential friend. I therefore wish to see everything through you, because I believe that your counsel is always right. I believe that you understand the whole situation perfectly. Therefore, I am asking your opinion. What should I do? I have faith in you, and therefore I shall do whatever you advise. It was known to Uddhava that although Lord Krishna was acting like an ordinary man, he knew everything, past, present, and future. However, because the Lord wanted to consult with him, Uddhava, in order to render service to the Lord, began to speak. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 70th chapter of Krishna, Lord Krishna's daily activities. So, just perfect timing. So, tomorrow we'll go on to Lord Krishna in Indraprashna city, which is the city of the Pandavas. And we're going to find Lord Krishna making plans how to kill Jarasandha. That'll be chapter 71. So let's take some questions, stop sharing, allow everyone to unmute yourselves. Hold on a second. All right. Yes, I guess that's tells you have a question. So what's the question?
So, in places where the sun doesn't rise 3 hours before, or, for the Brahma Muhurta hour, does it affect the sublimity of that time?
You mean like in the North Pole and the South Pole?
Yeah, in some places in Europe and
Yeah, that's right. Where the sun doesn't get up, does it affect? No, the chanting of the holy name is always auspicious. Obviously, you don't change the Brahma Muhurta time till, let's see, if the sun rises at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which happens in some countries, or midday. It's not that you change the Brahma Muhurta time to 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning. You just basically keep the same timing. Because it's Brahma Muhurta. Anyway, you have to be practical. No, it doesn't change the sublimity and the auspiciousness. Okay?
one more other.
What's that?
Vishaka was telling me all about how the ecosystem at farms, even if you're not raising chickens to eat them or anything, they have a real function in keeping have several functions in keeping things working right.
That's nice. So the chickens, they're more expert than us. They're better devotees because they get up early, whereas some devotees don't get up early. So the chickens are very good Vaishnavas. Okay, so here's a question in the chat window. I do question the previous. When the Kurus were superstitiously insulting Lord Balaram, why age of Kali is mentioned because they were still in Dwapara Yuga? Since they mentioned it was due to the influence of the age of Kali. That's actually quite interesting. Because when you're talking about the different yugas, when you're talking about Satya, Treta, Dwapara, or Kali Yuga, each of the yugas is divided into 4 parts. How about that? So there's Satya, there's Satya Treta, Satya Dwapara, Satya Kali. So the last portion of there's 2 explanations of this. The last portion of the Dwapara Yuga in which Krishna appeared is the Kali Yuga portion of the Dwapara Yuga. In other words, therefore it's sometimes considered Kali Yuga. Also, it's the Yoga Sanja. Yoga Sanja means like there's a little bit of overlapping there. Of course, Kali didn't really manifest his presence completely until Krishna left the planet. So that's actually a very good question. In the last chapter, did Narada Muni also expand in 16,000? No, Narada Muni didn't expand in this particular case into 16,108 forms. He actually visited separately in each one. I guess he went real quickly, like the Flash. So, here's another question from Anu. Can you please explain that one who surrenders to the lotus feet that past sins don't affect them? Yet we see devotees suffering, meaning that Krishna's causes mercy, bringing them closer to him. Yes, it's not the sins, it's that Krishna. 2 things. Krishna is actually reducing the karmic burden. It's not karma anymore. Directly applied by Krishna, to help them understand their previous situation. And number two, Krishna reduces things and applies things in such a way to help us come closer to him. Uh, Here's another question. Was Dwarka a city underwater while Lord Krishna was present? No, it was not underwater. It was above the water. And living there with his queens. Or did Dwarka went underwater after Lord Krishna left the planet? It's described that after Lord Krishna left the planet, Arjuna went to Dwarka to bring the queens and some other residents of Dwarka to safety, and the water was basically lapping at their heels. That means it was just flooding right after they left. So Dwarka went underwater, became unmanifest after Lord Krishna left this world. So, let's see, who's next? Ifondi Kirolina is next.
Hare Krishna Gurudeva. It's Chitralekha.
Yeah, Chitralekha.
My obeisances. Gurudev, from Krishna's activities, well, you read he offered obeisances to the elderly family members. So, should we also like not to offer obeisances, but like to somehow, yes, like show respect to those elderly family members, even if they were kind of demons, or I mean, but because we got
show,
these lives. Yes.
We should be respectful and show respect. Not that we have to listen to them. But like Krishna Prabhupada, with one of his disciples, Brahmananda, and Brahmananda's mother came to see Prabhupada, and Prabhupada instructed Brahmananda to offer obeisances whenever he sees his mother. So, I mean, the mother really freaked out. She didn't know what to do with it. But I can imagine doing that with my mother. I never did that, but be respectful, because the Bhagavad Gita says that austerities of the body, one of the austerities of the body is austerities of the body, according to the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, is offering respects of one's body to one's worshipful superiors like father and mother, spiritual master, and superiors.
Okay. So thank you. Okay?
Yeah, so we should do that. Not that we have to bow down. That would be kind of ridiculous, bowing down to all of our family members, unless you're actually in a Vedic culture. In the Vedic culture, we find that when Krishna arrived somewhere, let's say he met the Pandavas, the younger Pandavas actually bow down to him. And those who were the same age, like Arjuna, of course, they embraced. And those Pandavas who were older than Krishna, like Yudhisthira Maharaj, Krishna bowed down at their lotus feet. So Krishna set a good example like that. Krishna followed the ordinary etiquette. So, who else has a question?
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my respectful obeisances. Gurudev,
yeah.
did bow down like we do it in ISKCON, or in India, like how we just bend down a little bit?
Normally like this.
Oh.
Normally like this. Like Krishna said, bow the head. We just read today that Krishna would bow the head rather than, like thunderbutts or anything like that. Yeah, it was mainly like that. Like a namaste type of stuff.
So what we do in India, that's actually not Vedic in the sense, when we see our parents, we just bend forward, actually not actually on the ground, but we just bend down and touch feet, something.
Yeah, that's the standard. Actually, up until recently, that was the standard in India. You just like, Hare Krishna, Namaste, offer my respects to you. That was the standard. Generally, the bowing down stuff is for the temple or for other Vaishnavas, but, we have to be careful when we do it in public. People think we're kind of weird. So, I think I think nowadays, after COVID, more people are going like that. So, all right, all
Thank
right,
you very
good,
much.
good question. All right, so elders aren't supporting bhakti. Yeah, we pay respect in the heart, but we're respectful like this. Respectful. We don't have to listen, but we're respectful. We respect someone. Like Prabhupada would respect as a government official, someone who had a position because he understood that that position was given by God. I mean, probably wouldn't bow down to them, but probably would certainly give respect to people who had a particular position. Okay, so now it's time to end. So we'll continue tomorrow with chapter 71, Lord Krishna in Indraprasth city, which is where the Pandavas were. So, thank you very much. All glories to divine grace. A.C. Bhakti